Welcome to Mr. Foy's Easel. On this program, I'm going to be continuing with cartoons and comments on expressions, on cartoon faces. To be a little more specific, I'm going to be dealing with how you draw the expression of someone who's reacting to an event, whether it's physical or psychological or whatever. I'll give you a couple of examples just with the faces. Let's say this person is, suddenly there's a kaboom. You remember those sounds I talked about? A sudden loud clap of thunder along with lightning. Well, if you're not expecting something like that, and you probably wouldn't be, then you'd have this kind of reaction, a kind of temporary, what's happening attitude. Or if you hear the doorbell ringing and you know it's about that time for the pizza man to arrive, then you might have an expression like this. Well, I'm going to be dealing with cartoons showing how different people respond and how their reaction or response is shown on their faces and maybe elsewhere. Let's begin with a situation like this. It's winter time, and there was a pretty big snow. And here's a fellow who's just stepped out of his front door, and he's surveying the snow that's piled up. He's got the big snow shovel. He hasn't started yet, but pay attention now to what might be his expression. Not a very happy fellow, is he? I'd better get my snow brush out here a little bit. So that's one reaction to heavy snow. In the backyard is a different reaction. We have here a snowman who's almost completed. He's already got his one arm and got his eyes. And here's a youngster with his gloves on, still working on his snowman creation. Go ahead and put the carrot for his nose there. He's even put the hat on his head. But look at this expression. Look at the smile on his face. Quite a contrast, isn't it? Between, oh boy, look what's ahead of me, and oh joy, what fun I'm having. No school, lots of snow. Well, let's go on to a different situation now. Get out of the snowy pattern. Let's assume that there's a garbage can and someone has carelessly left the lid off of it. And some of you may remember on one of my previous programs, I talked about how a bad smell is kind of represented by that sort of curly line. Well, here's a fence, and the neighbor is looking over, and notice this expression. And just to add further to it, what she's thinking is, I don't know if this is a word or not, but you've seen it a lot. It symbolizes disgust. She can smell that, maybe even make her nose twitch a little bit. She's not going to hang around very long. But this picture hasn't been completed yet, because down here, close by, is this little guy. Mr. Rat. Look at the expression on his face. You don't have to know a lot about rodents to know that, and some of them think that this smell is pretty good, and he's thinking not yuck, but yum, and he's on his way to find out more about it and have his supper. Well, this next situation involves a chicken and a fox, but we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll explore expressions on cartoon characters a little further.
Home security is now available through Conway Corp. It's an advanced solution backed by people you know and trust. Customize your system with motion detectors, sensors, light controls, and more, all managed from your wireless touchscreen or mobile phone. It's an easy way to protect the things that matter and the ones who matter most. It's safety for you, powered by Conway Corp.
Well, a chicken and a fox. As you know, I like to draw rats, chickens, and other animals standing upright, just like people. And I like to put expressions on their faces, although when I used to look at chickens on the farm, I never could tell what they were thinking, and if I'm not mistaken, they did even have eyebrows. But anyway, this is cartoon world. And this chicken is, well, the expression would be apprehension or fear, I guess. And this chicken is sort of hiding behind the barn here. This is the barnyard. And over here is a fox. And notice his expression. It's one of puzzlement or wonder. To be more specific, he's wondering, where did that chicken go? I know chickens aren't as big as foxes, but anyway, the fox is standing here with, I guess you would call it a puzzled expression on his face. Where did that chicken go? And the chicken's probably thinking, I hope he doesn't see me. Well, the next drawing I'm going to give you involves a lady and a pig. Let's see how it works out. Notice her expression. It's not one of fear exactly or anger. It's just, well, it's not a very happy expression. And you'll see why as I continue with this drawing. She's walking in town in an area where there's been some construction and there's no sidewalk. Instead, what she sees is a whole stretch of mud that she apparently is going to have to walk through to get to where she's going. let's let this represent the mud, and maybe this is a warehouse building or something. But anyway, not a happy lady at all. She's either going to have to make a big detour or try to make her way through this mess. Okay, let's look at the pig. Make a separate drawing here. Mud, oh yes, lots of mud. Maybe the same mud pile after this lady's finally resolved her dilemma. Here's what the pig does. Get the picture? So, different approaches to mud, one of disgust and one of sheer joy. Now here's another cartoon. This one kind of like the one right above here. It has two people in it. I'm going to start this drawing by spelling out the word cookies. The reason I spelled the word first is if I drew the jar first, I might somehow not have room to put the label on there. And one of the characters of the cartoon is Junior. Just came in from playing, and he's getting ready to reach in for a cookie. But I've held off giving you the expression because I want to draw the other person in the situation. You guessed it, it's Mom. She says something like, ahem, you know. And his expression is, uh-oh. He didn't know she didn't know she was that close by. But anyway, she's not pleased with his getting into the cookies right before dinner time. Now this next one involves not mother and son, but father and son. And they're watching a football game on television, and their reactions and expressions are quite a contrast. Here is...
Boy, lean over for me a little bit so I can see the drawing. There you go.
Here's Junior's reaction. Maybe this is Thanksgiving afternoon or something. Look at his, not only his facial expression, but his body language, his motions. I could even tell you what he's thinking or saying. But over here is Pop. They both have been sitting on the couch. Instead of jumping up, Pop is staying stationary. Notice the expression on his face. Guess whose team just scored a touchdown? Well, that's all our time for today for Mr. Easel. Remember, you can You can contact Mr. For's Easel at conwaycorp.com.